Welcome to tonight's post Maui edition of the Klown podcast. I'm back from vacation. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. It's been a while, so I'm Scott Burks here. Hello. And my co-host Wayne Nash. Please check me out on the yard/HBCU Sports. You see in the backdrop. The yard at HBCU.com, where he raps about all things HBCU sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night, SLZE Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live with my man D, Coach, and Sweet Lou. And last but not least, check out his great work at herosports.com, where he talks about all things FCS athletics as it relates to HBCUs, and we'll get to that in a moment. As for me, this is the name of my sports blog, The Klown Times. You can find me at www.theklowntimes.net. You can find me on Facebook as well. We're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, wherever it may be. Just type it in the search window. You'll find me as there. And two things. Please continue to subscribe. We have over 300 subscribers now to YouTube channel, so please continue to subscribe. I celebrate the small victories, man. That's just me. Hey, I'm just a dude here in Cincinnati. So anyway, just continue to subscribe, comment, dislike if you want, and share. So the more you do that, the more love we get, the more fun we have as well. And also, one more thing, get the merch. That's what this is.
Get the merch.
CafePress.com, search for the Klown Time Sports. The actual description, the link rather, will be in the description after I upload this to YouTube tomorrow, as well as to Wayne Nash's websites as well. So you find us there as well. So I bet you're wondering, you see this distinguished young man beneath us. He's back. He's going to talk his shit as he should. The one and only, my frat brother, my ace, my LB, Andre Edwards is in the house. What's up?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Hey,
What's up?
Somebody has a big week this week after what happened on Sunday. After what happened on Sunday.
Times like this don't come around very often.
Oh my God, the city of Cincinnati has to be losing it right now.
Hey, you know what? I'm looking up at this. I've been looking up at the sky. Is the solar eclipse going to happen, man? Is the end of the world going to happen? This city is, dude, yo.
Hey, make things right with your maker. Whoever that is, make them right. It's about to be over.
It's about to be over. It's about to, because, man, hey, Dwayne, let me tell you something, man. From both, Andre, he lives outside the city. But me, I live in Cincinnati. Probably my wife's born and raised here. When I tell you what's going on, what's happened from the last college football playoff ranking to this past Sunday, let me tell you something, bro. If you're in the city right now,
unbelievable.
You see people going around talking so much shit. It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Unreal.
So, hey, I'm not going to give any justice. My man Andre, he's been the closest to it. But let me tell you, man, before I turn it over to Dre, this is a very unusual feeling in the city right now. The Bengals, we'll talk about the Bengals momentarily, but the Bengals on the cusp of going from worst to first in the AFC North, which is to me the toughest division in the NFL this year. I'm no disrespect to the NFC West, but the AFC North is it this year, and in the AFC West too. And between that and the Bearcats breaking the proverbial glass ceiling of the group of five, even though they're on their way to being a Power 5 school in maybe a couple of years. We'll talk about that as well. But this city, yo, it's crazy,
bro.
It's crazy, man. So Dre, yo, from a Cincinnati fan's perspective, you're gonna talk your shit. I will allow you to talk your shit. You earn the right to talk your shit. So the floor is yours.
I'm almost at a loss for words. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, have always represented my teams, whether I was at Morehouse, OU, going through my jobs, my work life, everything that I've ever done. I have always represented UC and the Bengals. And to know like how close we've come at certain points in times, like Kenyon Martin in basketball.
Yeah,
you looked at Carson Palmer the first time, in 05 versus the Steelers. You look at Andy Dalton's 2015 season, and then AJ almost winning the game again against the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2015. You look at the undefeated season last year that the Bearcats had and almost pulling off the win versus Georgia. and previous to that, even of, going to Sugar Bowl, going to the Orange Bowl, those things pale in comparison to what's about to happen this weekend here and the potential of what could happen this weekend. Do I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that Cincinnati's going to beat Alabama? No, I don't. But the fact that we are on the same stage and the fact that we have a chance and have been given that opportunity is beyond anything I could have imagined at the beginning of the season. Like, go back and watch the podcast that I've been on with you guys before. I was like, I don't think that they'll be giving the opportunity. It'll be less about whether they are deserving of the opportunity and more so about will they be given the opportunity. And much to my surprise, and much to my happiness, they were actually, not only did they earn that opportunity, but they were given that opportunity.
They earned
it. It's absolutely fantastic that on Friday at 3:30, I'll be somewhere with a large adult beverage, just losing my mind, right? And that feeling of, wow, this is what it must be like to be in a big time city like a Chicago or like a New England, Boston, where like this stuff happens all the time, right? Like this is this happens all the time. But for me, like, this is amazing. And like, we haven't even talked about it, and we'll get to the Bengals in a minute of what they can accomplish on Sunday. But from a college football perspective, this is the pinnacle. And to think that UC has the opportunity to participate in this is, again, just unbelievable to me.
Well, and before I turn it over to you, D Nash, I was hoping to have you on. I know you had a conflict. Life, exactly. But right after the last CFP football rankings, we kind of figured y'all wouldn't get the shot, particularly after Baylor did y'all a huge solid. So you're a Baylor fan now. So anyway,
I mean, that Oklahoma State running back did them a straight solid.
That's
if
true.
He just go ahead and just cuts in.
Just a little bit.
Use his physics. Yo, my physics teacher, Dr. Barwick, is going insane watching that game. Yo, to give you an idea of Dr. Barwick's makeup, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Just take Bill Nye, make him shorter. Okay. My old physics professor, teacher, Dr. Barwick in high school. He's going insane. Yo, take the momentum, hit the corner, fall into the end zone. You got the touchdown.
Yep.
Right.
But no, he wanted to be faster, and that's what it gets you.
There you go. So anyway, we could debate whether it will make a difference or not as far as Oklahoma State winning. I don't think they would have jumped UC based on the performance against Baylor. I don't think they would want that, but that's another discussion for another time. But we're giving UC a flowers right now. So yeah. So basically, I thinking about the journey, right? And Paul Doherty, a famous, Dwayne, if you don't know, the famous sports writer here for the Cincinnati Enquirer, he had a column that laid out the journey from where they were at in the 80s. He just went back to the 80s to what is right now, how remarkable, the word remarkable does not do half the justice as what UC is right now. I mean, we already knew what D'Antonio did before he went to Michigan State. He took him there, but Brian Kelly took him to the stratosphere.
A whole other level, right?
Right, he took him to the stratosphere.
But it always felt like he was looking for that next opportunity.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. But it never felt like, hey, this is something that's sustainable with this particular coach.
Right. And he
moved to Bush Jones. Right. And Bush Jones was a decent enough dude.
Right.
But even that felt like he was always looking for the next opportunity to move on. And which means you can get some good players in, but you're changing systems, you're changing coordinators.
Right.
This talent doesn't quite fit exactly what I want to do. It might take a year and okay, let me fix some things and this, that, and the other, right? And so while you had really good success, you never had elite level success because you just didn't have a coach who was willing to take the time to stay and really build that thing.
Right. So when you say all that, man, there's Fickell. Of course, Luke Fickell. He didn't jump at the overtures at Notre Dame, apparently. And I guess I read somewhere that he said that he would think about it, but he asked them to wait.
Yep.
He asked Notre Dame to wait because he wasn't going to bail on UC.
Correct. Basically what he said was, because they came at him at Houston before the Houston game and said, hey, we want to talk to you. And he was like, cool, I'm down to talk, but I'm gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait until after this Houston game. And Notre Dame wasn't willing to wait until after the Houston game. So then they moved on to their next candidate, which is a fantastic candidate who I very much so wanted at UC if Luke Fickell left.
Right.
So
Marcus Freeman. Yep.
Yeah, I got no beef. I got no problem with that. And congrats and kudos to him. But the fact that Luke was willing to tell Notre Dame, hey, hold on 1 second, dude, I got some stuff I need to do first, really speaks
his volumes
commitment to the Bearcats.
Right. And you know, and I could talk, we could discuss another time about the idea of Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame when Notre Dame had a small chance of possibly getting into the playoff if he had enough chaos. But
history shows that that's exactly what that dude would do. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, go back to the big bowl games that he had with us, you know, when he was here at UC. He absolutely bailed on teams that could have won big time bowl games. I mean, we're talking, you know, Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl level games back in the era of the BCS. Those were the biggest of the biggest bowl games that you could have. He was like, I'm out.
Yep. Still go. They're supposed to. They because they played Florida.
Yes.
In the Sugar Bowl, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, and got blasted.
And he just bailed.
Yeah. So that I remember that to this very day. But I just find it remarkable, man, about the journey. I find it remarkable that even though you guys, and we'll talk about this part later about y'all going to the Big 12, the timeline. But when you guys are on the verge of going to the Big 12 eventually, it's maybe 2 years at the very most at this point, to break that ceiling before y'all make that inevitable jump to the Power Five, it's still cool as hell to see. Now, no one's expecting them to shock the world and beat Alabama. They have a shot, but
they got a puncher's chance.
Yeah, they got punches, but I mean, look who Alabama's kicked the shit out of over the years. They did it to Ohio State. They did it to Notre Dame twice.
Oklahoma State.
Michigan State. Washington.
Yes.
Clemson won semifinal. Yep. Do not go on. They're coached by the GOAT.
There is no shame in getting punched in the mouth by Alabama.
No.
None. At least not from anybody coming at me and being like, ha ha, your boy's this, your boy's that.
Yeah.
Look here. Alabama does that to a lot of people.
Everybody. Yeah.
They do that to a lot of people.
They did it to Georgia a few weeks ago. They did it to Georgia. Yeah. I mean, come on now.
Punch them in the mouth.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll say this though, fellas. After what I saw just a couple of weeks in Atlanta, nothing shocks me no more. I wouldn't be surprised if they shock the world and move on, because I'm still concerned about what Alabama are we going to get. Are we going to get the Alabama that beat down on Georgia, or are we going to get the Alabama whose point differential in their last 3 regular season games was 5 points? Which one are we going to get? And I don't know which one.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now. Let me tell you right now. I'm gonna let you finish, D, but I'm gonna jump in right quick.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm
gonna tell you right now. If for some reason UC pulls off this win, get off of my Twitter, get off of my Facebook, unfriend me from every piece of social media ever, because I am going to act a complete ass. Okay, I will be unbearable. So that's just the public service announcement.
Oh, man.
I will be unbearable. So
hey,
so funny.
All I know is Coach Saban and his boys better not come into this game cocky like his good old buddy down in Jackson, Mississippi, who came into the Celebration Bowl cocky with him and his boys and overlooked that team that everyone in the world thought was going, everyone outside of Orangeburg, South Carolina thought was going to lose to Jackson State. hey, if that happens, and South Carolina State got punched in the mouth early, and everybody said, "Uh-oh, the Bulldogs ain't ready," and later on they proved it. I'm just saying, I seen the blueprint of how it can happen.
Unbearable.
And I wouldn't hold it against you to do so, because hey, a lot of people
go anywhere in the city. I wouldn't be able to go anywhere in the city if that would have happened. I wouldn't go anywhere. I mean, it's bad enough that I can't go out with my Steelers gear on right now. It's even worse. If I mean, are you crazy? Are you kidding me?
Bro.
Are you kidding me?
I can't. I'm telling you, I'm the most annoying person you've ever met in your life.
But let me ask you this before we segue to your beloved Bengals.
Yeah.
In order for UC to have a shot, what do they have to do? I mean, what do they have to do to at least hang with Alabama and give them a chance to shock the world, if you will?
So first things first, I think they have to weather that initial emotional storm, right? Alabama's bigger, stronger, faster in general. So from top to bottom, does UC have some talent that can match up with Alabama? Yes, they do. But if I'm taking, players from each team, I'm picking more players from Alabama than I am from Cincinnati, right?
Of course.
So you have to weather that emotional storm. You can't let Alabama get up, 14, 17, be driving for, 21, and you haven't gotten your offense started yet. That can't happen. Right. So there has to be, you have to give yourself a chance in the beginning, from the beginning.
Right.
Now, we make it past those first, let's call it the first 4 possessions of each team, and it's 3-0, 6-3, 10-7, somewhere in that general vicinity of things. And now everything kind of calms down and you get back to, okay, this is who we are and this is how we play and let's go. I think UC has a legitimate chance. You got to limit the turnovers, and you can say that for every football game that there is, right?
Yeah, right.
But especially on the Cincinnati side of things, you cannot give that Alabama team more offensive possessions. You just can't do it.
Right.
And so you have to take care of the football. You have to weather that first 10 minutes, of the first quarter and be in it. And then ultimately, man, you just have to play your game. Play like UC can play. Let Des Ridder open it up. I think they tried to keep him healthy most of the season.
Yeah.
So they didn't run him as much as they normally would. But this is it, man. This is it. You got to go. Pull out all the stops and let's go. And I'm not saying trickery from flea flickers and reverses, and no, they run that run pass option real well, and they run it best when Des Ridder is unafraid to use his legs and is out there making and forcing the issue, right? They didn't do a ton of that this year. They did last year though, and if they can get back to doing that, and again, I think some of it was preserve Des, because if you don't have Des, this season doesn't happen. Right. So we had to get him to this point in order to get this team to this point. Right. But we're here now, and it's time to go.
Right. Amen. And also, I think as great as y'all secondary is with Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, what a name, by the way. I think it boils down to the trenches, because as great as your secondary is, with no pass rush, it's a wrap, especially against those track team that Alabama puts it there in the wide receiver core. You got to get pressure. Now, the question
this is where Monte Sanders earns his money. This is where Monte Sanders can turn himself from a second or third round pick into a first round pick. If he can be impactful in this game versus an Alabama offensive line that is full of studs, and he can grab himself a sack and a half, 2 sacks, be disruptive throughout the game, he can earn himself some real money. And if I were his agent or if I were his handlers, this is the game I'd be like, bruh, you have got to go off. Anything that you've been carrying in the tank for the last whatever, you have got to go off because you can make yourself a ton of money in one game.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
So can Sauce Gardner, even though he and Kobe Bryant are expected to go earlier in the draft, especially Sauce Gardner, I think they're two big corners. And I think someone's in their heads telling them the same thing too. It's go time, man. You've been working for this moment for the past, 3-4 years?
Yep.
Y'all been building this. Desmond Ritter too. It's go time. It's go time. From coming back this season, he's gone from a late round pick, if drafted at all, to a possible first round pick. By coming back this year alone.
He is definitely in the conversation of first 2 days.
Yes.
You know, everybody gets desperate with quarterbacks in first round and whatever. Fine. Is he a first round talent? I'm not 100% sure of that piece. He's still a little bit too inconsistent for me.
Yeah.
But
no worse than a second round.
Second round dude, a third round dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without question. Especially, you know, you got an older quarterback who is on their way out, Pittsburgh. You got, you know, a dude that you're not quite sure about, like a Washington football team with, you know, Heineke. I'm just not quite sure. Like he's there, but maybe not. Okay, let's throw some decent competition in on him. Des Ritter. Okay, cool. Let's go see what we can do.
But Dre, I'll tell you right now, the entire city is not sold on Taylor Heineke right now. They're ready to oust this dude as much as possible. They already know. They already are believing he is a quality backup at best, and that they need someone here in order to challenge this dude. I can already tell you that right now.
So I mean, again, you look at places like that, right? Who
and there's several places like that. You got Houston, Washington.
Yes.
Who else? God.
Denver.
Denver's like that. Another situation.
Carolina.
I mean, like you got a bunch of dudes who are
New Orleans is like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, the Giants, how sold are they on Jones? Like, I mean, there's just a lot of situations that he could find himself in where he could push the starter, but not necessarily have to come in and be the starter day one.
Right. Right.
But Trey, I have a big question for you real quick. Sorry to interrupt, Scott. But
No worries.
All right. So say we go ahead and we look at the stat sheet the next day. 4 categories that you're looking at. Rank them from worst to best in terms of, okay, if Cincinnati loses this battle, they can still win the game. Hopefully you're understanding this question. So you look at it, and Cincinnati has lost the turnover battle, turnover on points battle, big plays given up, and time of possession. Which one can Cincinnati give up the most and still have an opportunity to win? And which one can they least give up because they'll lose because of that?
So they'll lose because of turnovers. That's one of my keys to the game, period. If they you give Alabama too many possessions offensively, you're just going to be in trouble. I think they can give up explosive plays and still be in the game because I think Alabama has the athletes to push them from an explosive play standpoint. That quarterback is nice. They got some nice wide receivers. You can give up some explosive plays, but if you tighten up in the red zone and you give them 3 instead of 7, you know, or the opportunity for 3 instead of 7, you miss a kick here, you do that, this, that, and the other. I mean, stuff happens when you don't score touchdowns, right? And so you can give up yardage. You can give up a ton of yardage, but tighten between the 20s and come out victorious. You can't give multiple turnovers to Alabama and expect to win.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. And totally agree. Because I've seen what Alabama does. Has been doing those turnovers. Ask Georgia. Ask Georgia what they could do with it. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. I'm just glad that we found that. Look, Dwayne and I, we talked in the past, and I'll say this very quickly before we move to the Bengals, about the possibilities, like the what ifs, right? I know they say if what's the fifth, we'll all be drunk, right? But what if Wake and Pitt did not have those dumbass losses early in the year? What if Pitt did not lose to Western Michigan at home?
Yeah.
What if Wake didn't choke against Carolina? You know, they come in as 2-1 loss teams into the ACC title game. Because if you look at how the top 10 finished, you had a bunch of 2-loss teams in the top 10, which tells me, and they were trying to help Wake early. I don't care what anybody says with this. Bringing in Clemson at 19, NC State, then later Pitt. But I'm just saying this. We were 2 inexplicable losses earlier from the possibility of an ACC team usurping your Bearcats. And I laid out the reasons why. Yeah.
Absolutely would work. And I mean, I think we talked about that on one of the last pods that I was on of like, it's not about who they rank in the top 10. It's about who they rank 15 to 25.
Right.
That's what it's about, because it gives those other schools the opportunity to play harder competition because they played higher ranked teams than what Cincinnati had the ability to do. The problem came when the teams in the top 10 just weren't that good.
Right.
And neither were the teams that they put 15 to 25.
Right.
So they were beating each other and nobody was any good.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So there you go. But again, props to UC. Y'all did a damn thing this year. You earned it. So, you know, whatever happens after this is gravy. You know what I'm saying? Because again, who has to Alabama beat the shit out of?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Correct.
It is what it is. So, I mean,
100%.
So you guys earned it. And I think I'll lie to you. One more thing. As far as that goes, I know UC is about to be a Big 12 squad, right? In 2 years. I give it 2 years tops. What's stopping them from making the move next season? Yeah, they don't have to. You don't think they? I mean, because they can. The way the Big 12. I just want to see them have a chance to play Oklahoma and Texas. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Me
but
too.
I'm just looking at the TV
it's the buyout,
contracts.
man. It's the buy. So here's the issue. Here's the issue with UC as a program.
Okay.
From a monetary standpoint.
Okay.
We have some big donors. We don't have whales, right? We have big donors. We don't have whales. We don't have people who can, you know, write a check for a new stadium, write a check for a new basketball arena, write a check for a new weightlifting facility, write a check for, okay, dude, you've asked me for 4 checks. That's all I can write. Like if I've got 20 million and you want me to donate 5 million, that's a lot of money.
True.
Right? That's a quarter of what I have to give to you. Now, if I have 200 million and you ask me for 5 million, we might be able to talk a little bit. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Right, it just makes it. So when you look at like, you know, Ohio State, when you look at USC, when you look at UCLA, when you look at Florida, when you look at those big programs, they have people with deep pockets. We have a few people with some mediumly deep pockets who can help and who will absolutely contribute money, but it's not the same. And so therefore, when we come and say, hey, the buyout is, and I can't remember what it is, but it's
10 mil.
Yeah, you know, it's 10 million to get out of this. Yeah. Okay, do you want my 10 million to go to getting you out of this secondhand conference, or do you want my 10 million to go towards building a facility for the football team when you're already going to the new conference in 2 years anyway?
Right. I got you.
So
makes sense.
That's more so what the issue is. We just don't have enough big money people to continuously go back to ask for money.
I got you. That makes sense. Like I said, I would love to see Oklahoma or Texas come to Nipper.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. Because they're on their way out to the SEC.
Yep.
That's all. I mean, not to say that playing Oklahoma State and Baylor, TCU, and Texas Tech and West Virginia, especially, wouldn't be a bad would be a bad thing. That'd be great, especially West Virginia. But I'm just wishing upon a star. You know, just have Oklahoma, Texas.
No, and I'm not saying it's not out of the question. I just know that funds are being allocated in a different way right now, and the Big 12 is already an inevitability anyway. And as nice as it would be to have Texas or Oklahoma come to UC, I'd rather have better facilities to help recruits come and continue to build what we're doing. You know what I mean?
To play them for one season.
Yeah.
Good point. So let's segue from one great thing to another potentially great, already a good thing. Your Bengals. Man, from the beginning of the season, from the beginning of the season, when we had this conversation, you were hopeful. I remember you being hopeful because you got your franchise quarterback. You got your studs on the perimeter. You built up your defense. It was all about that godforsaken offensive line. That's what it was about. And I said it myself. If your O-line doesn't have to be spectacular, just decent. If it's just decent, y'all will have a huge shot because you guys got the studs, the young studs, right? So fast forward to week 17. Yeah. And damn, I mean, you guys are in first place, going from worst to first. And if you guys beat, I'll have the I'm laughing, but if I'll have the player possibilities in front of me. I believe if you guys beat Kansas City at home, you guys clinched the North. I think.
So we got to win one of the final two.
Right.
So we got Kansas City at home and Cleveland on the road. The other scenario we can win is if, and this is going to hurt me to even say, it, to root for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, something in my throat. If the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore loses, and then Pittsburgh beats, and then Baltimore beats Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
In the final week, then we'll clinch two.
So
or basically win one of these two
rivals.
Yeah.
And back-to-back weeks. First, you have to pull for the hated Steelers, then for a team you despise in Baltimore the following week. That has to move a bad taste.
And then you would just kind of like back into it, and this, I don't want to do that. But
right. Of course.
Yeah, win one of the last two, and you are AFC North champs. Period.
Correct. So I think I may say this somewhere. I think this may be the first time that you guys have, because you guys had that one good year earlier, like a few years ago, where you went 5-1 to the division, I think, and sweeping Pittsburgh along the way. I think it's 2009. I forgot what it was, but
yeah, it's been a while.
But basically, I think this is the same year where you guys swept both the big brothers in the division, the Bulls in the division, the same year, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, we went undefeated. We went 6-0 in the division that year.
Yeah, there you go. So this is the second time y'all done this. So this is the second time y'all swept the two Bulls in the division, and not only swept them, beat their asses twice.
Correct.
Each.
A minimum of 14 points over both times.
Yes. So that just leads me to thinking, man, we're on the precipice for two reasons. I will explain in a moment, of going back to the 80s, going back to the future. Because not many people remember the 80s where you guys were spectacular in the 80s. You guys were great. You guys were damn good in the 70s. You just had that team, that black and gold team, blocking your path most of the time. And they did it to Houston too. So anyway, but you guys are good in the 70s, but y'all were just fucking awesome in the 80s. You just see that another red and gold team out west ruin your dreams twice. You guys should have beaten them the second time, but that's not.
We should have beat them the first time.
Yeah, but anyway, the point being is that you guys, just like in the 80s, you had two stud quarters. You had Kenny Anderson, and then Boomer Esiason.
Yes, sir.
Right. This time around, you have Joe Burrow.
And he might be better than them both.
Exactly, which is scary.
That dude, I'm telling y'all, there is something different about that cat. Like, he does things that are just amazing. And he's not, like, he doesn't have the biggest arm. You know, he's not the cat from LA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not Herbert, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not Mahomes. He's not fast like Lamar Jackson. But you take a little piece of each one of those dudes, add in the pocket savviness of a Tom Brady. Don't get me wrong, I am not comparing Joe Burrow.
There are people who are losing their shit right now. Oh my
Before
God.
all the comments start flooding in and say Andre said he's Tom Brady. I did not say that.
Tom Brady.
Very clear. I did not
Skip
say
Bayless
that.
will have a heart attack.
I'm on Twitter right now, putting it right now on Twitter. Dre just said.
Dwayne is posted on the look here. Dre said what I'm saying is had some of that same pocket awareness and pocket savvy that a Tom Brady has, right? Where it's the subtle movement to the left, the step up, the subtle movement to the right that buys just that much more time for a T. Higgins or a Jamar Chase or a Tyler Boyd to get open. And that is something you just can't teach a kid, man.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm sorry about that, but you
got
got Tyler Boyd is your slot receiver. That's not fair.
792, 98, something like that yards on the season already.
Yeah. He's your slot receiver, y'all. That's just not even fair. And I just look, again, this is going back to the future. You guys got studs, young studs. You got Joe, and I didn't even mention Joe Mixon, toting the rock. Another 1,000-yard season, if I'm not mistaken. So, look, you know, I already mentioned one reason it's going back to the future. Another reason is Pittsburgh's starting to suck again. We're about to lose. I think Large Bench is about to call it a career after this year. We don't have a quarterback in the pipeline. We're about to suck again like we did in the 80s. And you guys are about to take off again like you did in the 80s. You guys are about to beat asses again like you did in the 80s. Have all the beating asses again like you did in the 80s. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All that we need to cap the nightmarish 80s off would be the Cleveland Browns being really good again, like they were in the 80s. Yeah. But I think that would be the Ravens' place. That would be the Ravens' place to be the new Cleveland Browns instead of the current Cleveland Browns. But anyway, I just think you guys have done a great job. I love Burrow. We're talking about Burrow now. I love his leadership more than anything, and his swagger. Yeah. He's very understated. And what sold me on this young man was after George Floyd's murder that summer. Yeah, he led the squad from the walk from Paul Brown Stadium to the Underground Railroad Freedom Center. It was very outspoken about it.
Players asked him to make the speech.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Like that already said so much about him, about how they view him.
A white guy doing this,
right? Yeah. A young
rookie,
unproven, right? Like, you've done nothing in this league, nothing at all. But the respect that he commanded within that locker room from day one is unreal. The fact that there were free agents who made decisions based upon the fact that he was going to be drafted and or be the quarterback in year 2, that people were like, I want to go play with that dude. When's the last time that's happened? Like, nobody was coming here to play with Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton's a nice guy. And if he was at a bar and we sat down next to him, we would have a great conversation. We'd exchange phone numbers. We'd, show up for Thanksgiving dinner one year because he was doing a Friendsgiving. Like, it would be great. But, like, nobody's coming to earn their money with that dude.
Right.
Because I want to win. And I want somebody who projects winning to me, right? Especially when it comes to money. Like, I can go make money anywhere. You telling me I can go play with Tom Brady or I can go play with Andy Dalton. You telling me I can go play with Dak Prescott or I can play with Andy Dalton.
Right.
That's not crapping on Andy Dalton. That's saying I want to win and make money.
That's being real.
Just making money.
It's being real. It is what it is. It's being real. It's being pragmatic. That's what that shit is.
And now Joe Burrow
gives
that opportunity for Cass to look at. DJ Reader said it himself of like, hey, my agent came to me and was like, do you want to go play with the quarterback out in Denver? I can't remember his name, or Joe Burrow. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's done. We're going to play with Joe Burrow. Right? Chidobe Awuzie had several teams come after him. Mike Hilton left the Pittsburgh Steelers, left to come to play with the Bengals and Joe Burrow. He's on the defensive side of the ball. He wants to play with Joe Burrow. So he provides something that we just haven't had in a really, really, really long time at that quarterback position. Even going back to Carson, like Carson, a leader, very, very athletic, great arm, big arm,
great arm,
good quarterback, solid, like all of the things that you want in a quarterback. But was he that dude Cass was willing to run through a wall for? Like he never came across as that guy, right? Same thing with Andy Dalton, super nice guy, cool. If I'm already playing here and they want to pay me money to keep staying here, sure, I'll stay. But Joe Burrow, I want to play with that dude. He makes me want to play for him and with him. And that's a gigantic difference that they just didn't have before.
Yeah. It's just amazing. It's so amazing to see that. And again, man, like I said, you guys are this close to completing the worst to first in the NFC North.
6-25-1 in his first 2 years as a head coach is Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor, yep.
6-25-1. Like, he should have been fired.
Right.
Right? I mean, I appreciate the patience of the Browns family, and it is absolutely paying off this year. But that guy should have been fired. Yeah. Nobody should be allowed to go 6-25-1 and still keep it. It just shouldn't happen. But fortunately, in this particular case, it seems to be working out. He seems to be creating a culture that people, are excited about and want to play in. And whether it's because of him and or despite him and because of Joe Burrow, they are moving in the right direction. They are winning games. They are asserting themselves. One more quick point on Burrow, and you talked about his swagger. Right? Dude sat in his post-game press conference after just shellacking the Baltimore Ravens, throwing for a franchise record 525
yards.
The first time in his career he's thrown for 4 touchdowns. He almost had 3 100-plus yard receiving wide receivers. Had Tyler Boyd knock a 32-yard touchdown that Burrow put in his hands. But all of that being said, dude showed up to his press conference in a Santa hat and a Krusty Krab
t-shirt.
Okay, you know what I mean? Like a Krusty Krab t-shirt. I'm like,
yo, he was wilding.
Just chill, man. Right here. And when they asked him, so earlier in the week, they talked to Don Wink Martindale.
Yeah. I heard the score. Yeah.
Right. And he said, hey, are you gonna double team Jamar Chase and do some things against him and like you do for Aaron Rodgers and what's my man Devontae
Adams,
yeah.
Like, hey, y'all gonna do that? Because I mean, Chase lit y'all up for 201 yards last time y'all played, right? So are y'all gonna do that this time? And he was like, I'm pretty sure Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league, basically, and Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, and I don't think we're putting Joe Burrow in a Hall of Fame jacket anytime soon.
I remember that quote.
So nah, we ain't doing that. Okay, cool. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna throw for 25 yards. I'm gonna throw for 4 touchdowns. And when I'm asked, do I remember what Don Wink Martindale said? I'm gonna be like, maybe. Sheesh.
You guys better protect.
Were you thinking about the comments that he made when you threw for that 52-yard pass for no damn reason at all at the end of the
game? None. No, there was a reason. It's called the AFC North. That was the reason. That was the reason. I don't care what nobody else says. That was the reason.
Bingo.
We're the most petty division in football. We all hate each other.
Like, dude, and I'm here for every last bit of petty. Because look,
so petty.
I can tell you that there was not a single person last year, week 17, when Baltimore ran for a franchise record 404 yards versus the Bengals with a bunch of backup dudes because they were all broke. They were all, they didn't have a defense. But all the columns that I read afterwards were Baltimore did what it was supposed to do. They beat down the team that they should have beat. They clinched the North. They clinched this. They did that. They did all of the things that they were supposed to do. Nobody felt bad for the Bengals. Nobody said, oh, Baltimore shouldn't have kept running the ball. No. And nor should the Bengals feel bad about doing what they did to Baltimore.
No. It's professional sports.
They stopped scoring with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they were running up the score. They played keep away in the best way that they could, which when you're going up against the number one run defense in the league, why would you try and run the ball?
Right. Yeah.
You're going up against the number 28 pass defense in the league, and two of their corners recently got broke, one of which during the game. Why not just pass 6 yards, 7 yards, first down, 8 yards, 9 yards, first down? Like, there's no difference in that than, hey, if they're a crappy run team and we're just going to run the ball down their throats, nobody would say boo. But because we threw it, it's this big, get out of here with that noise.
Yeah. It's professional sports, ladies and gentlemen. It is what it is. This is big boy football.
It is.
It's so 100%. Just stop it. So, again, you guys, the Birds is doing something really special. And it hurts me to say as a Steeler fan, because, again, I saw this 40 years ago in the 80s. And it's about to happen again. So, yeah, props to you all. It is what it is. So we're going to get you out here on this, man. And Dwayne, this is your time with the HBCU minute, but right. I want to keep Dre on as long as we can, because I want to ask him about Deion's, and you too, because I know Dwayne, you still have a lot to say about that shit. When Coach Prime flipped that young man Travis Hunter from his alma mater, Florida State, someone said that's the best interception he made in his career to go to Jackson State. Yeah, I had a bunch of people bitching about in the media. And speaking of which, I want to send a quick apology to Doug Gottlieb. I misquoted him when I thought he was coming down to HBCUs, just because he was saying because they don't have the resources as the bigger schools, which is a fact.
Which is true, yes.
Which is true.
But no, there was a comment he made about HBCU alums.
Yeah.
He did make that comment, and that's the part that got me.
Yeah.
When he said what he said about HBCUs not having the resources, I said, you know what, dude? Okay, you're cool. You got that. There's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. But that's not a conversation that we're going to have right now.
Right. No.
When he came down and talked about the HBCU alums,
mm-hmm.
that's what bothered me the most.
Yeah. When in response to the criticism, to the response to the hate. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing there. So I want to get that out there. And I'm glad, Dwayne, you added some context to that as well.
Oh, yeah, I had to, because like I said before, you say what you want about the resources. I get it. I understand. Mm-hmm. Because you know what? There's 65 schools that have the resources. And they're what? If you're including D2 and NA, no, D3, actually, no, yeah. D2 and D3 and NAIA, they understand where they are. They understand their lot in life. But when you're talking about FCS programs, there are a lot of fan bases that want to see these programs look like the Power Five, mm-hmm. but not completely understand the fiscal responsibility that comes along with being like that.
Right.
Correct.
And more so the donations and the responsibilities of the fan base to help them get like that.
Right.
All right.
So you know, there's a
completely agree. Again, it's going back to even just on the big time level, looking at a UC, right?
Yeah.
The fiscal responsibility of making the program what you want it to be. It's not mm-hmm. just the TV money. It's not just ESPN showing up and doing College Game Day. Like, no, there's a fiscal responsibility of giving back to that university or that college that helps you get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to continue this conversation in like momentarily, but we're going to get Dre out of here. So Dre, thank you for coming on, talking your shit. You earned it. A for A for life. Look at him. He's a damn fool. That's a damn fool. All right, bro. I'll holler at you after the Sugar Bowl, after
Yes,
this is the Bengals do their thing. We'll talk soon, brother.
All right, man. See you, Dave.
Take care. All right. Welcome back. Thank you. Thanks to my guy, Andre Edwards, for bringing the heat on all things Cincinnati sports, particularly UC Bearcats and the Cincinnati Bengals. That was great. I'm telling you, man, if UC does the unthinkable and Cincinnati continue and the Bengals win the AFC North going from worst to first, this is going to act the damn fool. It's going to be a solar eclipse, and there's going to be some aliens coming down from space. It's going to be the apocalypse will be here. God will come down with his archangels and fight Lucifer and his demons. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but it's going to be crazy. It's already crazy here in the city right now. The buzz is buzzing, so it's going to be hype. But yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know if I would go that far just yet, because if you were to jump into a time machine and tell 12-year-old me that the Rams, the Bengals, no, I'm sorry, the Rams, the Bucks, and the Patriots would win Super Bowls in my lifetime.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I would think the exact same thing, right?
That's good. That's a good point.
And the Milwaukee Bucks would win a NBA championship. I'm like, no, it has to be the end. It can't be. The earth is going to crack open and
right.
No, we're still here.
I got you.
I love your hyperbole though, but yeah.
I'm just saying, the Cincinnati sports history. It's outside of baseball. Outside of baseball. It's a baseball town. Outside of baseball.
Oh yeah.
The football history and collegiate history. Yeah, that would be crazy. Well, I'll say this. Well, I want to continue the conversation we had when Andre had the bounce.
Yes.
You were talking about Doug Gottlieb. Now you ran across. You was referring to some tweets he had between Gottlieb and Roland Martin, which I did not know about. So I wanted to shed some light on that after I made the apology for Doug Gottlieb for his initial premise, which was this young man, Travis Hunter, going from a school with resources to a FCS school that doesn't have the fraction of the resources that Florida State has. But go ahead. You're about to do another context.
You know, and I do want to apologize to Drake because I wanted to hear what his response was. I wanted to hear what a non-HBCU alum's response. Well, no, I'm sorry. He went to Morehouse.
He went to Morehouse.
Talking about. So yeah, I wanted to hear what his response was as it pertains to Travis Hunter coming over to Jackson State, right? But I'm sorry, Scott. I had to correct you because I read one of those tweets that Doug Gottlieb sent out, and I'm just reading this article from the New York Post that talks about the transaction between one Doug Gottlieb and Roland Martin a couple of weeks ago. Of course, with Gottlieb's tweet saying Twitter celebrating a kid making an obvious mistake is hilarious, as if choosing an HBCU is an obvious mistake, which one is already a stab at my heart, along with the other HBCU alums out there in the world. I find that to be extremely laughable, right? So, of course, Roland Martin responded and commented on Gottlieb's arrogance and asked him to explain why going to a team in Jackson State that finished 11-2, I'm updating this since the Celebration Bowl, this past season would be worse for Hunter than playing for Florida State, which finished the season 5-7. And this is from Doug Gottlieb. HBCU football does not have close to the same support, athletically, academically, medically, and they play an inferior schedule with inferior teammates. Now, okay, I get they don't get the same supports athletically and medically. I get that, right? But to say that they don't have the same support academically, that's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Right.
But Gottlieb continues. In addition of football ends, any person would prefer to be a UGA, that's University of Georgia, FSU, Florida State, Texas A&M alum for help in the workforce. That part, my friend, is the part that bothered me the most, because you talk about the amount of HBCUs there are in comparison to PWIs, HBCUs make up 5% of the academic establishments out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet somehow they tend to turn out, if not more than 50%, but at least 50% or more in terms of Black lawyers, Black judges, Black accountants. There are a lot of things that HBCUs, oh my God, it's just the audacity of him to come out and say that HBCU alums, you won't be able to benefit by going to an HBCU because you won't be able to get any assistance from an HBCU alum in the workforce is completely laughable. And then I'll say this, right? For someone who works in a workplace where there aren't a lot of HBCU alums, as an HBCU alum myself, you know what, Doug? I didn't need the assistance. My work speaks for itself. I didn't need this. I made it hard to tell me no because of my work ethic and my work and my talent. So yes, there are a lot of fields dealing with business, finance, law, wherever you want to go, agriculture. There's so many industries that HBCU alums are well entrenched in that I know that I'm forgetting right now, and HBCU alums are screaming at me right now as we speak. The other areas right now that, dude, to say that we wish to, no, we don't. No, we don't. That was laughable. My God, and it was an embarrassment of Doug Gottlieb and his knowledge of HBCUs and how well entrenched in various fields that HBCU alums are. Nursing department. Oh my God. How dare you, Doug Gottlieb? How dare you? I'm gonna need you to go ahead and show the word that you can put your shorts on the right way. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, there's footage of Doug Gottlieb playing in a basketball game for Oklahoma State with his shorts backwards for several minutes in the first half. Yeah, dude. And then, of course, you know, the other various things that Gottlieb has been involved in and that I don't want to talk about. But yeah, dude, don't.
Well,
yeah, I
didn't know. I didn't know that.
Engineering field. Oh my God. Yeah. So,
well, A&T, I'll say this, and I'm not going to belabor the point because we know, and there are people out there know, but A&T puts out the most Black engineers in the country, in the world.
Yes.
FAMU is one of the top, I want to get this right, they have one of the top business schools in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, we won't talk about Winston State in their nursing program. We're not going to talk about
we're not going to.
You know, we're not going to talk about this.
But we're not going to.
I could, but I could also mention the fact that a lot of pre-med nurses go to Winston State for the nursing school. I could also mention that North Carolina had a governor, Easley, who's a UNC alum, but went to North Carolina Surgeon for the law school program.
Yes, you know, you're talking about the law programs.
I could mention that too. They have one of the better law school programs in the country as well. I could mention that too, but that's not a here nor there, right? That's not a here nor there. But anyway, just getting back to this subject at hand as far as Deion Sanders, recruiting. I will say this, like I said, I agree with Doug Gottlieb on one thing, is that I think HBCU sports has a huge moment on its hands right now. Right?
Yes, right.
Because one thing that Coach Prime has done, he's brought the spotlight onto the HBCUs. He's brought the spotlight, or is trying to bring more to the spotlight. He's already in commercials with the great Nick Saban. Who could have thought that? You have the GOAT in FBS, right? Coaching with Deion Sanders as his wingman in the Aflac commercials. You got to be doing something right if you go on the same stage with Nick Saban, right? And Nick Saban had some kind words to say about Deion Sanders when he was asked that question about flipping Travis Hunter from Florida State to Jackson State. It's on YouTube. You all can look it up.
Of course.
But I'll say this, man. with this kid, Travis Hunter, wanted to learn from Deion Sanders. And if you think about it, having Deion Sanders, in the living room, if he makes it to your living room, a lot of parents know who Deion Sanders is.
A lot of kids know who he is.
And the kids still know who he is. So if you're a cornerback or defensive back or defensive player, especially, you're going to want to holler at Deion Sanders. You want to holler at him anyway, especially, like I said, the parents know who the hell he is. They watch him play. They have no shot. Other coaches will have a harder time if you allow Deion Sanders to come into your house and use his gift of gab. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say this, though. That's all well and good. I just need, and we talked about this before, but I'm going to keep beating the hell out of this drum. And I think you know where I'm going. I just need for an administration at these institutions. I'm just focused on the SWAC right now. I just need for these administrators in the SWAC to start and to, I don't know how, I'm not that smart, but have to bring up, to drum up engagement in the communities and within the alums. Because a lot of these schools, Grambling, Southern, Florida A&M, Jackson State now, they have strong alumni programs. They have strong alumni bases. I'm not even mentioning the A&T and the formula of the MEAC. We have a big ass chapter here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I know how strong the Aggie Alumni Association is, alumni base is. We both know that. We both know that.
Yes.
So I just need, I don't know how the administrations of these schools do it, but they're going to, if it's a combination, it's going to have to be a combination with better alumni engagement and engagement within corporations, businesses, and their communities. They have to start reinvesting and invest more. They don't have to be on the same level as Alabama, Georgia, Clemson. I'm not saying all of that. I'm just saying they need to invest more, because I'm telling you, since George Floyd's murder, more kids are starting to, more of our kids are starting to look at HBCUs for their education. Since in a long time.
Yeah.
Like that, and the fact that ESPN is showing the SWAC love, still showing the MEAC some love, it's right there. I just need for the reinvestments to happen. I just need for the re-engagement. Even though the SWAC on average has outdrawn every FCS conference. And
easily.
And that's before Deion did it this year.
Yeah.
In the past, it wasn't even close. It's not even close now. I just need for more fan engagement. I need for more of the support. I need more financial support from these fans to happen for these fine institutions in the SWAC, the MEAC, and A&T, those in the PWI conferences, the A&T, Hampton,
Tennessee State. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I need in the SEAC, I know the SEAC is Division II, it is what it is, but you still have programs like Tuskegee looking to bubble up too. So
yeah, Tuskegee, Kentucky State,
Morehouse. Yeah. I need more and more of some support, and let's focus on FCS right now. More and more support, because FCS is right there, right below FBS. So I just need more support from the fans, the alumni, the donors, the administrations at these institutions, the conference commissioners. I need more.
These institutions have to do whatever they need to do in order to get better community engagement as well. Right. So this is one of the things that we've been preaching for the past few years, at least, in terms of HBCU media. And also fans that actually understand this, right? There are a lot of fans that would love to see HBCUs compete on a national level, but they don't understand the finances the fiscal responsibility that goes into doing this. I said this not too long ago in this podcast, and I'm reiterating that same thing, because it just seems to be, for whatever reason, that a lot of people believe that this money just magically appears, right? Where they say that, you know what, we need to have a better this. We need to have a better that. Why don't we have this? Why can't we get that? Certain players would love to come to these institutions, but when they come here, then let's be real, they see what they see at certain institutions, and then they go someplace else and they see what they see there in terms of facilities, in terms of their training staff, whatever, and they see that it's better. Sometimes they'll go ahead and make that decision, but a lot of times they'll go ahead and they'll make that choice to come to an HBCU. Right. The thing is, though, yes, the eyes are on us. We're getting that shine, but the thing is, we're going to have to be able and capable of keeping these student athletes here.
Yes. And
giving them what they need in order to compete against other programs, which means that, hey, community engagement has to be better to help people who aren't necessarily alums in that region come to these games. Right. Alums, it would be great if you go to these games more.
Yes.
Alums, it would be
say something about that.
Yes, it will be great if you were to go ahead and give back a little bit more to your institutions. Talking to one of your frat brothers who is also an A&T alum, I'm going to go ahead and shout out my man, Stephen Harrington, who is a member of and a chapter president of the A&T Aggies Athletic Foundation down in he's the president of the Greensboro chapter. He let me know that, you talk about alums giving back, right? Especially as it pertains to HBCUs. Now, I don't want to get him in trouble by quoting this number wrong, but I think he told me that it was under 5% in terms of alumni give back from HBCUs back to their respective institutions. And when you talk about giving back to your athletics department, that number is under 2%. Yo, we got to do better if we want to compete.
Right.
And if we want to have better facilities and better everything, be it to the amount of staff members and that we have within our athletics department and everything else that they're going to need in order to compete, not only within their conference, but against the rest of the nation too. So yes, getting donations would be wonderful from businesses and various companies, but we got to help us become better by giving back. So yeah, we got to play our own part too. So
gotcha.
It's great to have these students come, but it's not just about having them come here. Right. We got to sustain them while they're here, which will attract more to come here as well. We can't just have them come just because it's an HBCU. We got to give them something while they're here to make them completely, thoroughly enjoy their time here and also help them compete on the highest level as well.
Well said. Very well said. Appreciate you for that, brother. Let's get back right quick. Let's close the show on this. Back to the Celebration Ball. I know you were there. And I thought about you because I just wondering how many Jackson State, I had thinking about the Seattle Bay for some reason. I was thinking about how many Jackson State alums was looking what the draws dropped. And how many, because South Carolina State came out and just smacked them in the mouth. They came out there. I don't know what was said in the pregame speech by that coach who's been around, been there, done that. And I hadn't heard many South Carolina State fans chirp before the game as much as Jackson State did. I'm just wondering about the atmosphere when they saw their team smacking down the bully and the bully / petty fans in the process. By that, I mean also the SWAC, all the SWAC as well.
Yeah.
Being that the MEAC has practically owned the SWAC as far as these matchups go now. Let's just be real. What was the atmosphere like? What was it like? Again, I don't know too many South Carolina State fans that were talking before the game, but I have to imagine they were talking shit afterwards. So take me through the game and what happened and like how the atmosphere was, because I want to hear this.
I'll say this. So I'll start it with this. I had to get adjusted to the atmosphere because this is the first time since 2016 that North Carolina A&T was not participating in this game.
Right.
So having that adjustment alone for myself, it took a minute, right? Hell, I don't know if I'm still over it yet. I'm I think I'm still dealing with that.
Right.
But while watching the game, and even before getting to the game, right? Just the amount of disrespect that South Carolina State was receiving for this matchup can be seen in something as simple as the press conference, the pregame press conference, the Friday before the game, right?
Right.
So annually they have their pregame press conference where you're capable, the media is there interviewing the head coach and two players from both teams. Been to a couple of them, and normally it's a decent size, group of media that's there, right? Seemed about the same amount, when it was time for South Carolina State. About somewhere between 30 to 45 people in that media room. 2 hours later, it was South Carolina State. First it was South Carolina State. 2 hours later, it would be Jackson State. An hour into that wait time, more people started to come into the room, and an announcement was made. Okay, guys, we're going to have to get a little bit closer than what we did before because of the amount of media that are going to be in the room. And of course, we understood why, because who was coming? One Deion Sanders in Jackson State. And yes, there was probably somewhere between 2 to 3 times more media in that room when Jackson State was there than it was when South Carolina State was there. So that, in my eyes, was a little disrespectful, but at the same time, I get it because, of course, Deion Sanders is who he is. But I'm going to go ahead and quote one Jacoby Durant, who is the safety there at South Carolina State that won the defensive player of the game during the Celebration Bowl. He said that during their downtime in Atlanta, they had an opportunity to go around the city, and when they went to a mall with him and a couple of his teammates, people were looking at him. And he said that, he could tell that they could recognize that they were athletes. They just didn't understand, or they couldn't figure out who they played for. So, of course, people would come up to them and ask them, according to him, he said, people asked him, were they basketball players? And he said, no, we play football at South Carolina State. We're playing in the Celebration Bowl. And he said that the people's response was, oh, you're the team that's playing against Jackson State. He said at that point in time, of course, with all the stuff that's being said on social media.
Wait, it just dawned on me. It's like, oh, you're the guy.
Yeah, right. So you take the 10-point point spread, give it to Jackson State, the amount of smack talking that's going around, the fact that this 11-1 team is already looked to be favorites against a team that's 6-5. They just felt disrespected. And then when the game got started, Jackson State in the first quarters go up 7-0. But then there were periods there in which Jackson State's defense looked to bully South Carolina State's offense. And you could hear the buzzing in the press box about, South Carolina State is looking shook. This could be it, right? All of a sudden, South Carolina State forces a fumble. They get the ball. They score in a short field, make it 7-7. South Carolina State is starting to look like they're putting up a fight. And not only did they put up a fight, this is quote from Shaq Davis, the wide receiver who scored 3 touchdowns in that game and won offensive player of the game. Shout out to my man from Summerville, South Carolina, my third home.
All right.
He said, and I quote, they were physical. We had to get physical back with them. And you can tell on all facets of the game, that's exactly what the Bulldogs did. And that's something that the MEAC is known for, having more physical play than Jackson State. But if you would have seen Jackson State play this entire season, you would have thought, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that's not what you're going to get. But hey, South Carolina State said, hey, we are the MEAC. This is how we play ball. This is how we're going to dominate you. And that's exactly what they did. And not only were they physical with them, there were several things that I pointed out in my preview with Hero Sports that, oddly enough, I didn't pick South Carolina State to win, but I said if South Carolina State was capable of doing a couple of things, they could win this game.
Right.
And they did those things. One, win the turnover battle, which they did 3-2. But not only did they win the turnover battle, the points that were scored off those turnovers, they outscored them 21-3. Another thing that I pointed out was, hey, don't kick the ball to their all-conference kick returner, Isaiah Bolden, which they did not. And shout out to Dyson Reynolds, I think that's what his name is. I'm sorry, Dyson Roberts, the punter for South Carolina State. Averaged slightly under 50 yards per punt. They only totaled 31 yards on punt returns, 20 of which came from one punt return that a lot of people thought was going to be a big return, but wasn't, because that returner was stopped by who? Dyson Roberts himself. So they did what they needed to do in terms of special teams. Also, another flaw in special teams with Jackson State was their field goal kicking. I said, hey, if it comes down kicking the field goal, Jackson State may have an issue, because throughout the entire year, they were 3-11 kicking field goals throughout the whole year. There was an instance there. Jackson State, after getting an interception, drove downfield, got to the 15-yard line of South Carolina State. It was 4th and 1. They had a decision to make. Do we kick this field goal, which was probably like about under a 30-yarder? Do we kick that? Or do we go for it on 4th and 1, get a new fresh set of downs and try to go up 14-0? So instead of taking that field goal and going up 10, they go for it on 4th and 1. They don't get it. Jackson State South Carolina State would eventually get the ball, go up 10-7 at the half. Then all of a sudden, the snowball continued to roll. Make it even worse, like I said, you had the punt game, the turnovers. Also, there was a situation there. South Carolina State was up 17-7 in the third quarter. It's 4th and 19. It was too close for them to punt. It probably would have been about a 40+ yard field goal attempt. But Buddy Pugh decided to gamble and said, we're going to go for it on 4th and 19. What happens? They get 20, get a new fresh set of downs. 2 plays later, they score a touchdown. They go up 27-7 late in the third quarter, and their win probability jumps up to over 90%. And I think that was the decision of the game, because we've seen Jackson State down by 10 points before late in the third.
Change the momentum. They squashed the momentum. Yeah. And
they squashed that momentum. They were capable of coming back in the fourth quarter. 10 points was doable for them. We've seen that done throughout the season. 17 is a little bit more insurmountable. And as we can see, something that they didn't do and haven't been capable of doing all year long. And the fact that he made that play was super big in terms of the play calling by the offensive coordinator, and with Buddy Pugh making that decision to go for it on 4th and 19 to make that gamble for them to go up that big late in the game. But yeah, shout out to them. There was much to do about the attendance. They went ahead and the attendance was 48,653 to be
most
exact.
they had, yeah.
Most ever, right?
Right.
But of course, when the announcement was made about them selling out, people were wondering whether or not they were selling out the entire Mercedes-Benz Stadium,
right,
or not. And the answer to that, of course, is no. Now, the organizers of the game, of course, they've capped attendance for all of the Celebration Bowls at 45,000.
Right.
For them to go ahead and meet that number was big for them, and that's something they're not going to go ahead and change from here on out. And congratulations to ESPN and the organizers for the Celebration Bowl, because of course, not only did they continue the agreement with both the MEAC and the SWAC back in the spring to extend the Celebration Bowl period for 6 years, they also extended that contract for those same 6 years with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to continue to have the game in that stadium during that same time frame. So wonderful shout out, kudos to them for doing that. But yeah, I want to go ahead. I know it's been said, but I want to go ahead and say it again, that the whole attendance thing, make sure we get that misnomer out of the way. From here on out, yes, the cap for the Celebration Bowl in terms of attendance is 45,000. And yes, they exceeded it this past year. So congratulations to them on that. And then, of course, the other record set, most receiving touchdowns in the game by Shaq Davis. And then, of course, biggest point differential in the game. Oddly enough, that number being 21. Deion Sanders.
And speaking of which, how about that young man doing his dance from South Carolina State in the end zone? That was pretty dope. And Deion Sanders giving him props.
Yes.
That invitation was even more dope.
Oh, of course, right? I mean, there have been many. I've seen it on social media by players ever since the announcement of being hired by Jackson State. There have been players threatening the high step, threatening to do the dance, but to do it in that atmosphere, in that type of game, huge. And kudos for them for doing the dance and then bringing out the sledgehammer too. That was even better. That was better for me. So, but yeah, so kudos to them. But of course, with South Carolina State winning that game, there was so much conversation about who the Black college football national champion is. I got to ask your question.
Yes, sir.
In your eyes, based upon what you've seen, who do you think the Black college football champion is?
It ain't FAMU. It's not FAMU. I don't give a damn. No matter what the answer is, it ain't FAMU. Sorry, Rattlers. I know what you saw in that ranking. I know what you saw in that video. I know I forgot what damn website you all referenced. You're not the national champion, Black national champions. You didn't win your conference. You didn't win your damn division. Stop it. Stop it. You know better.
Oh my God.
Y'all know better than that. I mean, Central Florida thinks y'all stupid for declaring yourselves national champions. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Stop.
Do they know better though? This is the second time they've done this where they've declared themselves Black college football national champions.
Didn't they have some beef in the MEAC one time with our A&T 1 year?
Yeah, 2019 to be exact, because that was a year, of course, they actually beat A&T, had a better conference record than A&T, but because of the NCAA sanctions that they were facing, self-imposed to be exact,
right?
Due to some improprieties that they had, they couldn't compete for the Celebration Bowl, and they couldn't win the MEAC title. Now, had they been capable of doing so, they would have won the conference, but since they couldn't, they didn't. A&T goes on, puts up 66 on Alcorn State, and the rest is, of course, history, right?
I love it. Yes, yes.
Yeah, right? So, even with all of that, there was still a publication, and I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. Of course, that one publication is ran by Florida A&M alum, that chose them, the Rattlers, as the national champions, where everyone else chose A&T. Now, this year, again, said publication chose Florida A&M as the national champion, but there have been other publications that have given said title to Bowie State, the Division II program, because of the fact that they won the CIAA, they went on to play in the playoffs, they were one of the Elite Eight in the Division II playoffs,
right? And
they would lose to a team that will eventually go on, I think, to win the title for Division II, if my memory serves me correctly. Okay. So because of their resume, with the 11 wins, with the winning the title, with them going deep in the playoffs, there were a lot of people who thought that they had a great resume and decided that they will win the Black National Championship. But if you're like me, you still don't forget the fact that they lost to Delaware State in week 1. And then, of course, South Carolina State not only defeated Delaware State, but defeated Jackson State in the SWAC in the Celebration Bowl. And then, of course, the whole Celebration Bowl being the Black College Football National Championship game, whatever your thoughts on that, because, of course, everybody in Black college football cannot compete in said game, right? Because less than half of Black college teams are in the FCS, and even less than that are capable of being able to compete in the Celebration Bowl, period. So it's kind of unfair to say that. But if you're saying that, the winner of that game should get high consideration for the Black College Football National Championship, I'll give you that. But there are a lot of people that didn't think that, and there was a split and it's an interesting conversation about who it should be between Bowie State, Jackson State, South Carolina State, and even Florida A&M that I'm going to address in the articles that I'm writing right now for the Yard. So
Nice.
yeah, it's interesting, and everyone has released what they believe their national champion is. But yeah, when you keep having this type of situation and the opportunity for chaos to happen, this is what you get. And it's not something that I don't think that's going to end in the near future, because we can continue to have a 4-win team. Well, yes, South Carolina State, they swept the MEAC in 1 all 5 conference games, but you can get a 4-win MEAC champion or a 3-win in conference MEAC champion to move on to the Celebration Bowl and still potentially beat the SWAC. So this is a conversation we might end up having for the next few years until someone comes up with something to rectify this.
There you go. All right, welcome back. We forgot to do one thing. I can't believe I forgot to do this, man. John Madden, he passed yesterday evening. I gave my little solo blog early today on what he meant to me. He died 85 years young. He lived a long, great life. Even though we all knew this was going to be inevitable, it still was no less stunning. Because, man, let me tell you something. I remember my first football game I watched with my father was 1980. I was 7 years old. His beloved Washington football team was playing the Dallas Cowboys, and John Madden did that game. And I think this was before he and Pat Summerall teamed up. And so I remember from there, every year with my dad, I watched these big games. First it was CBS, then later Fox. And it's called the big NFC matchups for that week. And you knew you was watching a big game when John Madden and Pat Summerall were on the call. You just knew it. And to the point where John Madden would give shout outs to various players who had great games, made it even more special. I mean, you had an all Madden team, man.
Yeah.
That meant almost as much as being all pro to these guys. Dennis Sharp talked about this morning on Undisputed, man, how he was an all Madden team 5 times. And how that meant a lot to him as much as going to Pro Bowl.
Because it was big during the 80s and 90s, definitely.
Yes.
Most definitely.
I mean, you asked Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman. Being on all Madden team was great. It was important to them. And it didn't stop there, right? And I'm talking about from our perspective because we're not so old. But I'll get to the first part of his career like in a moment. But basically, if being a GOAT commentator, color commentator wasn't enough, he went on to inspire the greatest selling sports video game, if not video game, period, of all time in the Madden EA Sports series.
Yes, sir.
I remember getting Madden for the first time in college on the old PlayStation. And going to people's houses before that, at the church, and playing on the Sega Genesis even. And depending on whose house I was, either Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo, playing the Madden games on there. We had Madden tournaments in college.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In the early 90s. So, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and we don't, and for that, those two things alone, John Madden was the soundtrack of my NFL fandom. He was. And many people our age and below's soundtrack of NFL fandom. But the saddest part about that is, again, we're not so old. So we do not really remember him coaching.
No.
And him, minimum of 100 games, that's the highest winning percentage still.
Yeah.
As a head coach. dude went 100. I don't have it in front of me, but I know he lost only 32 games in 10 years.
Yeah.
Think about that. He lost only 32 games, regular season games, in 10 years. That's averaging a little over 3 losses a year.
Yeah, but the one sad thing, of course, he couldn't get over your Steelers hop, right?
Right.
And to your point, in terms of, unfortunately,
except that one time when they beat the shit out of us in 1976 in the title game, that propelled them to beat down Minnesota like they stole something in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, I think it was 11. So
it was 11. It was 11. Yeah. 11, and unfortunately, he ended up retiring from coaching 2 years later because of ulcers that he was dealing with because of the pressure of coaching.
Right.
But to your point, man, he stopped coaching when I was 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then he became, like you said, the soundtrack. Especially when you're talking oh my God, just being like, it's interesting that your very first introduction was with your dad, who was a huge Washington football team fan.
Mm-hmm.
And with me being here and being in the district and a lot of our games, because of how good those Joe Gibb led Washington football teams were.
Y'all were outstanding in the 80s. Y'all were outstanding.
I still say team of the 80s, but there are a lot of people who want to disagree with me on that and say it's the Niners, but that's another argument for another time. We're talking about John Madden here.
Yeah.
The amount of games that he covered that I watched in my lifetime, the Washington versus New York, Washington versus Dallas, Washington versus Philly, Washington versus Chicago, Washington versus the Bears, all of those games in my lifetime. And oddly enough, it's kind of ironic. I had a nice conversation with Pro Football Hall of Famer and South Carolina State alum Harry Carson during the Celebration Bowl, where I talked about how he ruined a lot of my childhood Sundays growing up. Oddly enough, narrated by John Madden, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
those big Giants and Redskins games, yes, I remember those. Well.
Oh yeah. So you had that carry over to the commentary booth, of course, with that great staff over at CBS with Pat Summerall, Irv Cross, Rick Musburger, Jane Kennedy, that entire stuff.
Yeah.
And, well, Jimmy and his comments.
Well, I had to throw him in there, but whatever.
I mean, he was who he was until he said what he said, right? Right. But I digress. And then, of course, all the commercials, the light commercials, and then, of course, for him being what's I'm looking for here, the guy to promote things like Tinactin and all those other products that he pushed, and then of course, like you said, with the creation of the video game of John Madden Football. And for those who haven't had an opportunity to go see it, it's a series on Netflix called High Score, where they go through the history of video games. And one of the episodes, they talk about sports games. And of course, they have to talk about Madden, and they talk about Madden's creation thanks to this fanatic fan that just happened to have a ton of money who wanted to see a more realistic football game for video games, right? And he just thought that, the play calling had to be as realistic as possible. And of course, he thought about John Madden, reached out to John, and that's how the game was created. And it became this juggernaut that it once was. But yeah, you're talking about, my earliest introduction to Madden was 1992. And of course, it had that Washington football team that was dominant coming off that Super Bowl win against the Buffalo Bills. Couldn't nobody stop me with Ernest Biner and Gerald Riggs in the backfield, and of course, Mark Rippon passing them passes. And then we get to 94 where the Cowboys were dominant. And I didn't want to touch that game ever again in life. And then, of course, we fast forward past that time frame. And then, of course, you get the competition with ESPN and their football video game that they had with 2K, and how, of course, Madden would end up becoming the champion with that one because they were the ones that were capable of holding on to the NFL rights to the players' names and likenesses and everything.
Yes.
So all of that, depending upon how old you are, Madden for something different, which is wonderful because it says something about him and his longevity. Yeah. It's been an amazing ride to sit back and watch John Madden introduce us to the turducken, the whole concept of the turducken.
I know. There's a write-up on ESPN.com that talks about the whole his rise, the whole phenomenon that was John Madden, which I encourage everyone to read. It's very
most definitely.
entertaining. And I want to watch. I missed it. I missed the All Madden thing on Fox Sports the other night. They have it on ESPN Plus. They're going to re-air it on Fox Sports. I think tomorrow or some shit. I forgot. So
and
anyway,
I think it's on Peacock. I think it's on
okay.
Peacock.
So Peacock too. Okay, cool. I'll watch it.
Because if it is, I was about to watch it, but it was too long. It's going to run over into our airing time tonight. So I'm gonna watch it once we're done. But I got a very interesting text from a friend of mine. Hatshepsut Tall. I'm gonna go ahead and shout her out. She's gonna love the fact that I shouted her out tonight.
Nice.
But her dad is a huge sports fan. You know, Morehouse alum, if memory serves me correctly, too. Nice. And it's from the Tidewater area. Okay. But yeah, this dude is a wealth of knowledge of HBCU athletics too. And I would love to have the opportunity to go ahead and interview him to talk to him about things that he knows. But he shared this with her to share it with me. So I'm gonna share it with you guys. You know, of course, talking about Mike Madden's passing, but he also talked about a running back by the name of Howard Brown that is from the Tidewater area. Brown would go on to play football at Maryland Eastern Shore. Okay. And it was a teammate with Art Shell. Oh. Now, he was actually invited to go out to Raiders camp in 68, but turned it down. Oddly enough, he would eventually become John Madden's bus driver because, of course, Madden did not like to fly, and he would become Madden's longtime bus driver. And it's just ironic that he wouldn't play for Madden, but he would still eventually end up working with Madden at a different capacity in his lifetime. So I was like, wow, that's that whole full circleness of getting associated with Madden was very cool. Nice. Again, another story I would love to talk to him about to get more insight on that. But yeah, you talk about Madden and his longevity. Got to go ahead and big that up, because that is going back to his coaching days in the early 70s. Yes. So yeah, that's well over 50 years of
because he started in 1968 and he retired early in 1978, I think.
78, yeah. So 10 years. So wow. So we have well over 50 years of being involved with the NFL, and worked on all 4 major networks.
Yes,
throughout his career.
Yes, he did.
But my God, dude, he was most definitely the narrator and the soundtrack to my childhood as it pertains to NFL football and the Washington football team, man. It's like you said, it was inevitable. It's very special. Yeah. And I heard someone say, and I got to reiterate this because it was the same for me too, whereas it was a way for me to connect with the adults in my family. One of the few things that we got an opportunity to speak about was sports, right? And even as a child, you can still talk about sports. Might not be as overly educated as an adult when I'm talking about it, but I can still talk about, I like that dude, I don't like that dude, but still, it's still enough to have that conversation and be there. And it was all done behind the audio soundtrack of the voice of one John Madden.
And that's how my dad and I connected too, and my brother. So my brother's a late bloomer. He was late to sports, but still, he's a man that would be missed by a lot of people, especially our age group going down.
Most definitely.
Again, he was the soundtrack of my NFL fandom as well as yours and many others. So, John Madden, you will forever be missed.
Most definitely.
And I thank you for my fandom, and I thank you for part of my late childhood, thanks to the John Madden games. And, thank you for connecting me with my dad in the way that one of the specialist ways that we did, NFL, the game of the weeks. So hopefully you see my dad and have him say hello. So before I get too emotional, I'm gonna thank y'all for tuning in to this again. Take care. Peace out.